You remember filing that in July?
Yes.
Yeah. So in that report, as best as I can surmise, you disclosed that you divested $100,000 or more in a variety of different stocks, which I presume was pursuant to the ethics agreement that you negotiated with the Department of Justice. In that same report, there's a disclosure regarding purchases of two different transactions. So between $15,000 to $50,000 in a national coffee house chain and between $50,000 to $100,000 in a semiconductor company on May 9th and May 12th. Are those transactions that you're doing personally, or are these through a stockbroker, or are these transactions that you're handling yourself?
So how they happen is I submit proposals under DOJ guidance to say, hey, I would like to trade this or that, and they run their review, and the FBI runs a review, and then they come back and say yes or no, and then I make the transaction.
Is there a reason that you decided to make the purchases into those two companies?
While families in Colorado were enduring a school shooting that the FBI failed to prevent, the Bureau's own director was focused on securing clearance to buy $100,000 worth of semiconductor stock. Joe Neguse asks one simple question that no FBI director should struggle to answer. Why are you trading stocks at all?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. I have a couple of questions regarding a terrible shooting that occurred in Colorado, a state, as you may know, that I represent. You've testified previously about, I think, what you would describe as your efforts to provide more information regarding the investigation with respect to the horrific assassination of Mr. Kirk. And so, in that same vein, I'm hoping you can provide this committee and my constituents in Colorado with some clarity.
Absolutely.
I think, as my colleagues know, in Evergreen, Colorado, Jefferson County, a county that I proudly represent, at Evergreen High School, a shooter ultimately injured. 2 students were praying for their swift recovery. There's an article here from Colorado Public Radio. The title is, quote, FBI was already investigating an account that may have been linked to the Evergreen shooter. You're familiar with the circumstances generally, Director, regarding this terrible tragedy.
Yes.
So my understanding from the public reporting is that an organization reported to the FBI in July of this year regarding, just reading here from the article, that the FBI opened an assessment into a social media account user whose identity was unknown and who was discussing the planning of a mass shooting with threats nonspecific in nature. This is the FBI's statement to the press. And that the FBI continued to work this assessment investigation to identify the name and location of the user up until September 10th, 2025, which is the day of the tragedy. Can you provide us some clarity on what were the impediments to finding, the account user, and maybe describe in greater detail the FBI's work in that regard?
Generally speaking, yes, because I know even though the shooter's deceased, the investigation we're not done.
Sure.
And so the impediments to finding these individuals, and you highlight a great point. We had 2 huge tragedies in the span of days in this country, the school shooting in Evergreen, Colorado being one of them. And proactively going out onto these social media platforms, which are so large, is our biggest impediment. And we need to rely on the service providers. There's actual legislation, I can't remember the name of it, that's up for renewal, which will, and I think at the end of the month, which gives service providers the ability to report that information in from their end without liability. We need that to continue, because while the FBI has so many people and the police are great at doing it, there's just too many platforms to cover down on.
Well, I appreciate that, Director Patel, and I think we're certainly, I'm interested to continue this conversation, because I think the reporting suggests that that there's a pattern, and that ultimately we want to make sure that law enforcement is able to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening in the future. I have a question. It's not meant as a gotcha question, so it just frame it there. But it is in regards to some reporting around a periodic transaction report that you had filed earlier, this year. So this is in July, pursuant to the ethical obligations as a senior executive official. You remember filing that in July?
Yes.
Yeah. So in that report, as best as I can surmise, you disclosed that you divested $100,000 or more in a variety of different stocks, which I presume was pursuant to the ethics agreement that you negotiated with the Department of Justice. In that same report, there's a disclosure regarding purchases of two different transactions. So between $15,000 to $50,000 in a national coffee house chain and between $50,000 to $100,000 in a semiconductor company on May 9th and May 12th. Are those transactions that you're doing personally, or are these through a stockbroker, or are these transactions that you're handling yourself?
So how they happen is I submit proposals under DOJ guidance to say, hey, I would like to trade this or that, and they run their review, and the FBI runs a review, and then they come back and say yes or no, and then I make the transaction.
Is there a reason that you decided to make the purchases into those two companies?
Generally speaking, I Before I got this job, I was, trading stocks, but not a lot like most people, and I just follow certain industries, and I thought they would be a good investment.
So the reason why I ask, right, because you had divested in other companies,
Yeah.
and I presume that wasn't because there were actual conflicts. It's just that you wanted to avoid an appearance of impropriety.
It was both.
Both,
Yeah.
but not all of the companies were conflicts.
Whatever they
you
make
divested from.
I don't make the call; they make the call.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess my point would be, the reason why I ask is, why I said it's not a gotcha question. I have for years led an effort here in Congress to try to ban members of Congress, senior executive officials, from trading stocks. And it's bipartisan in nature. We're working really hard to get that done, Republicans and Democrats. And you can understand, I think, given your role, given the nature of the position that you hold as the leader of the largest law enforcement agency in our country, that divesting entirely, not doing day trading now, I think would be something that would be in the interest of the American people. So I just would hope you would consider that, and that moving forward, that perhaps not purchasing stocks in individual companies, I would think would be something that would be worth pursuing.
Gentleman's time is...
I'm happy to give the witness an opportunity to...
No, thank you. I'll work with you on it.
Gentleman from...
What makes this exchange so compelling is that Representative Joe Neguse isn't attacking Patel, grandstanding, or trying to trap him. He approaches with calm, controlled precision, the kind only someone who understands both the gravity of the issue and the weight of public trust can exhibit. That contrast exposes a deeper problem. It begins with something deeply human, a school shooting in his own district, Evergreen High School, leaving 2 students injured and the community shaken. Neguse asks Patel the question every parent and student in Colorado is still grappling with. How did the FBI have an open assessment on the shooter's account months before the attack and still fail to identify him? Patel hints at the truth. Social media platforms are too vast, chaotic, and fragmented for the FBI to monitor effectively without cooperation and updated legislation. It's a systemic issue, and Neguse emphasizes that it's not just one case, it's patterns, failures, and blind spots that matter. Then Neguse pivots to Patel's own conduct, stock trades that raise serious ethical concerns. He asks in the most disarming way possible, not as a gotcha, but as a question the public deserves a clear answer to. He references Patel's July periodic transaction report, required under the ethics agreement he signed upon taking office. Patel disclosed divestments exceeding $100,000, showing awareness of potential conflicts. But the same filing also revealed 2 new purchases, up to $50,000 in a national coffee chain and up to $100,000 in a semiconductor company. Trades made while heading the FBI, the agency tasked with protecting U.S. national security and safeguarding critical technology supply chains. Neguse's question is simple but devastating. Why make these purchases at all? Patel's response, that he submitted the requests, DOJ reviewed them, and he thought the companies were good investments, misses the point. Neguse isn't accusing him of breaking the law, he's highlighting a larger truth. The appearance of impropriety can be just as damaging as impropriety itself. Running the largest law enforcement agency in America while trading stocks in sectors tied to national security raises questions the public shouldn't have to ask. Neguse even offers a way forward. Divest entirely, stop the trades, and follow the ethical standards he has been advocating for Congress and federal officials. He isn't shaming Patel. He's inviting him to uphold public trust. Patel's final response, "I'll work with you on it," says everything. It's neither a commitment nor a refusal, just an acknowledgement that the optics are bad and the issue isn't going away. Neguse exposes 2 parallel truths. Our institutions struggle to keep pace with evolving threats, and the people leading them must meet a higher ethical standard. You can't demand public trust while making questionable stock trades. You can't ask communities to rely on the FBI while critical online signals are missed. And you can't rebuild faith in government if its leaders act like regular investors instead of public servants.